I think it's certainly a very good turnout beyond the wildest expectations of its organizers.
Will Beijing heed the message?
Whatever Beijing may say in public now, I think it can hardly afford to ignore the voices of 780,000 Hong Kong people. I do not think Beijing has made up its mind on universal suffrage, so let's see what happens in the months ahead.
Especially in light of the July 1st protests tomorrow, what kind of response do you think you'll get from Beijing?
Well, I think Beijing has to listen. I think the white paper that it recently issued has spectacularly backfired. It's made people even more angry. This turnout at the civil referendum is a very, very good indication of the extent of people's frustration and anger at a government that is out of touch with the community, at Beijing's constant insulting and intimidating rhetoric, and more particularly at a white paper that attempts to redefine one country, two systems and tells Hong Kong people what little autonomy we enjoy is for Beijing to give and take away at its pleasure, quite contrary to the joint declaration that China and Great Britain signed 30 years ago.
So, you know, 780,000 voters, I think that's more than a fifth of Hong Kong's registered voters.
Yes.
You say that Beijing cannot afford to ignore this. What happens if Beijing does?
Well, I think that for as long as it doesn't indicate its bottom line, we still have hope that we can persuade Beijing. All we're asking in Hong Kong is that Beijing delivers on its promise to the people of Hong Kong. That is a set of credible universal suffrage proposals that give voters genuine choice, no unreasonable restrictions against people's standing, and not shutting out people of different political affiliations.
So you sound pretty hopeful.
I'm always hopeful, and I think the people's voices also indicate that they're hoping that both the SAR government and Beijing will listen. We want to show Beijing they have nothing to fear by giving Hong Kong people the vote. Far from creating chaos and instability, this is the only way of giving popular legitimacy to our chief executive and ensuring Hong Kong's long-term stability.
Now, the Occupy Central movement, they have said that they plan this sit-in if they do not, you know, if Beijing does not listen. Do you think that could exacerbate tensions, or do you think that will actually achieve some results?
Beijing and the SAR government can easily avoid Occupy Central. It is a measure of last resort. If we get a credible set of proposals, then there's absolutely no need for Occupy Central.
If the need becomes apparent, will you participate?
Well, all I can say is this. If after 780,000 people voted and you choose to ignore that voice and you present us with a set of proposals that has a preordained election result, then you can hardly blame Hong Kong people for feeling that the only last measure left to them is to have mass people mobilization.
And if indeed this happens, as you mentioned before, it's only been 17 years since the handover. What could the next 3 decades look like if Beijing doesn't listen now?
Well, there will only be increasing instability. I hope that the rest of the world will sit up and take notice about what's happening in Hong Kong. Because if Beijing chooses to ignore its international treaty obligations to Hong Kong people, then what does it say about Beijing's commitment to the rest of the world in terms of Beijing's treaty obligations with a whole host of countries?